Welcome back to another episode of Releasing the Genius, where we interview extraordinary people and we find out exactly how they got there. So our next guest, Julie Song, she was able to present at our Releasing the Genius conference last year, the Spirit of Math conference as well. And we thought, okay, this is a perfect person because we need to get her on here to explain what she does. So Julie Song is a former New York City public school teacher, and she's the founder of GATSVI, which is the Gifted and Talented Silicon Valley Innovators, and Director of GATI, the Gifted and Talented Institute. She has always valued global education and innovation. While teaching at a public school during the week, she launched her first education program in Brooklyn, New York, a Learn Through Play language immersion class on the weekends. Within a few short months, the program became a raving success among parents and students. Encouraged and emboldened by the experience, Julie went on to complete her studies at Teachers College, Columbia University, and then operate a learning center in South Korea. In Asia, she founded a success academy that helps students discover, experience, and unleash their inner potentials as innovators. She returned to her roots in Silicon Valley to launch GATSVI to help students learn 21st century core skills through entrepreneurship and innovation. In 2019 summer, she coordinated a pre-collegiate research and innovation program at University of California, Irvine. Now, I know that since then you've done some other things. So first, I just want to say thank you for joining this podcast.
This is great to have you here, and I just wanted to say that first of all, I met Julie last year when we were, or actually a couple of years ago, but last year she came to our conference, and what she says and what she's done is just incredible. As you listen to her, she started as a teacher, and she has been able to go beyond just a regular teacher, and she saw the needs that were out there, the possibilities that were out there, and she has changed the world for many kids because of this. And she's also not just changed the world for the kids, but I think also she's allowing other people to see that there are other types of possibilities with a variety of different types of programs that you can think of that's taking us into this new world coming forward. And her insight and her foresight, I think, Julie, is just incredible, because you have set many of these students up for success. The world has changed massively over the last several months, and people are now starting to talk about much more, well, what is the innovation, what is the entrepreneurship, and so on. But you saw this a long time ago before that. And so I like to just, first of all, say welcome to you. And and this is great to have you here. I also I think it would be really nice to hear from you about what else you are doing right now, and to share why did you start this as well? So first of all, what you're doing and why.
Okay, well, thank you, first of all, to inviting me. And I know Nathan just introduced me as one of the extraordinary people you guys invite. But I mean, I'm an ordinary person who helps, raise extraordinary people. That's how I like to, view myself. And I want to encourage other people that you don't have to have, Kim or Nathan's geniuses to be able to be on this Release the Genius show. So, I mean, yes, I would go ahead and talk about what I do now. But before that, I just wanted to say, Release the Genius is really what rings true to my core and what I believe in and what I do. So, when Nathan first mentioned Releasing the Genius, I instantly loved the name, right? Because it really describes my job. And my goal as a CEO of, Gifted and Talented Institute and, GATSVI, and a program director of several pre-collegiate programs, is to actually help students release their geniuses, right? GATI was also built on this belief that when every student discovers and releases his or genius, no matter how young they are, this world will be a better place. So that's how, I started these organizations and programs. And, we encourage our students not to be an isolated genius, but to become stronger together and make a bigger impact in the world together. So before we start every program, my partner, David, always challenges our students to imagine how the world will be a different place if Trump and Xi Jinping had met at a program like ours, when they're young. And if they learned the power of combining their geniuses and releasing them together positively, our world may, look a little different. So, that's where I stand, where, GATI and GATSVI stand.
Okay.
And I mean, I have a lot to say about gifted and talentedness. And, I would like to shed some light on, the new perspective on gifted and talentedness. But
You know what?
yeah,
Could you tell us what your programs are? Like what exactly
yeah,
happens when the kids come? And that would be great, I think, for our viewers, just to understand what you're doing.
right. So we have our major programs take place in Silicon Valley through GATSVI, which stand for Gifted and Talented Silicon Valley Innovators, and the other program at UCI. I mean, we have other programs, but these are the main programs that we run at the time. And to go into GATSVI, it's an entrepreneurship program for high school students, right? So Silicon Valley is the hub of startups, and it really embodies the value of entrepreneurship. And when I came back to Silicon Valley from Asia 3 years ago, I thought hard how I can release my genius, right? And how I can put my talent to use for the world of education. And, having having had some frustration in classroom settings, like how can I provide students the right stimulus, the right motivation and context so that they can navigate their own learning and future success. And I realized entrepreneurship education is the right tool for them. Also, coming to the Bay Area, I was encouraged to be more entrepreneurial myself and start something from zero. And I learned so much myself that I wanted to share this experience with, the students. If I had this kind of experience early on, I think I would be at a different place. Not that I'm complaining about where I am. And I also met a lot of great people, who are eager to share their geniuses with the future generation of entrepreneurs. So I decided to start an entrepreneurship program for high school students with these great mentors and people.
So, do the kids come from around Silicon Valley, or do they come from, where do they come from?
Most of the brilliant people came from Canada. No, they all came from all over the world. You know, uh, from Canada, from Korea, China, Italy. I mean, I'm just talking about GATSVI. I mean, if we talk about GATI at UCI, we even had students from Turkey, Burkina Faso, where else? I'm
Oh,
blinking out.
that's really neat. So, do they get together? So they actually go there. I guess this year you did it virtually. Is that right?
Yeah, we
Yes.
did.
So they get to meet each other as well. Is there a qualifications, or what happens? Sorry, you can tell us qualifications and what happens when they actually get there. What does this entrepreneurship look like, and who
Mm,
helps them with it?
mm, great question. So, a lot of students these days, surprisingly, have a lot of great, I mean, not surprisingly that they have a good idea. They all have great ideas, but surprisingly, they want to start businesses. I think entrepreneurship became like a buzzword around the world. And everyone applies to our program thinking that they have the greatest idea, like, this tech idea, this app idea. Oh, it's Silicon Valley, so I'm going to launch a tech business. And they come to our program um, and then share their ideas. They end up developing their ideas with their peers, make it presentable. They actually, their goal is to pitch their business idea to real investors for real investment and launch a real business. Now we emphasize this realness because business is reality. A lot of high school entrepreneurs come and go to these entrepreneurship programs thinking that they're just going to put this on their resume. But what we believe about entrepreneurship is that real hardcore um, reality check. I
That,
mean, mhm.
yeah, that's so important. And I think one of the things that we're looking at too in terms of developing countries, and not just developing countries, but around the world for high school, is how do we integrate businesses and business people and real businesses and business people within the high school range. And this is for me, one of my passions is, what do we do? Because we have to change the thinking of high school kids. So what kind of ideas could you perhaps tell high schools around the world? Like, what could they do? How are you getting these businesses integrating with these kids so it's real world? What are you doing that's different? Like, how are you doing this?
Okay. This is a secret to our business. I'm just kidding. No, it's not. It's really not. So we emphasize Silicon Valley mindset a lot, which is, paying it forward. A lot of our mentors are willing to share a lot of their own experiences, a lot of their failures that they've had, so that, these students can learn from them as well. Now, how our program is different from just learning the process of entrepreneurship, launching a business, or just learning a lot of theories, is that, first of all, they themselves have to learn how to, get out of their comfort zone and earn their first dollar, with their idea. Oftentimes they think about great ideas, but they don't know how to make that first dollar with their business. And at the end of the day, no matter what kind of business you found, whether it's a for-profit or nonprofit organization, you have to be able to sustain yourself, right? So we do help them think outside of that rigid framework of entrepreneurship that they're exposed to, and say, okay, go out and raise this money with your idea. And we give multiple missions even before the program starts. And they have amazing testimonies of their missions, them making over $800 out of lollipops. It's just, them thinking of strategies themselves. What can they sell? Is it just the product that they have to focus on, or is it the story that you have to create? So, that's just one way that we help students kind of open their eyes, I guess, in the light of entrepreneurship, real entrepreneurship.
And they pitched to VCs. How nice are the VCs to the kids?
I
Or
think
are they real?
high school students definitely have, advantage, because, it's not like Shark Tank where they get smashed and,
Yeah.
but our students do expect to get smashed.
Okay, good.
But even before, sending them in front of the investors and VCs, we just go through succession of critical, criticism, like really harsh criticism, so that they wake up and they say, oh shoot, this is not going to work. So we pivot. Mm-hmm. And that pivoting process is really, really hard for them initially, because it's almost like killing their own babies. I had this idea, you're saying my AirPod is not gonna, succeed, so I'm gonna move on to, let's say, a coffee business, but we really encourage them to think beyond product, but think of impact that they can make as high school students. They can't compete with, these giant Silicon Valley companies on these product ideas, but they can definitely appeal to the societal cause, right? Their impact as high school students, as Gen Zs, are completely different from what these startups, adult startups, can do. So we encourage them to think about what they can do right now from where they are.
So are there any maybe social impact businesses that you wanted to highlight from your program that your students did?
Okay. Well, to begin, so we're not really a social impact entrepreneurship program, but we don't discourage it. So with that said, this year, a group of students founded a biodegradable straw company.
Okay, nice.
Right. But the business model there isn't to just get the most profit out of selling straws. But what they're trying to sell, I don't know if I can say this, but what they're trying to sell to these businesses is that the image, the branding, they collaborated with another business in Bangladesh. So we had a participant from Bangladesh who already had like water filter prototype. So, this US based straw company partnered with the Bangladesh, startup founded by our member, and said, you know what, whatever profit we make out of these straws, we'll donate to your company so that you can purify water for your communities. So that's the
That's
kind
cool.
of, yeah, that is really cool.
Yeah.
And it got a lot of great feedback from actually the main VC we had.
So those
So
are
yeah.
partnerships that are really powerful, and that's global partnerships. So if you were like a big part of what you've just talked about is the mentorship and the people who you attract to this. If someone wanted to start this somewhere else in this world, what would they? How would they attract these mentors? How did you do that? Because I think this is key to what you've done. Is pretty incredible to get some really good people there working with you too. What did you do?
Mm. Okay, so I think having people is important, right? Good people. We There's this term that we use all the time, faceless leaders. So I mean, no, good curriculum is important, I guess, but not as important as having a lot of faceless leaders who are willing to become true mentors to these people. But what's great about these days is that virtual, connections and interactions are becoming a norm. Before, people were hesitant to connect over the internet and be mentored that way. So now I think it became more scalable and more possible, no matter where you are, what parts of the world you are, to start, this kind of entrepreneurship program, because there are people all over the world, just one click away. So before, I guess, everyone tried to start their own physical entrepreneurship program in their community, but now this can be all, connected virtually and join force. But I have to admit that we haven't really, gone global yet in that sense. We try to bring the globe to us, at this point.
But you are in a way because you're affecting the whole global landscape.
Communities in
And
Bangladesh
yes,
with clean
that's right.
water, right?
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
huge. Um, I think what would be really interesting is finding out a little bit about you. When you were growing up, what were you like? Because you're really pushing the boundaries here, and you're the other thing I'm really impressed with is the fact that you're not scared to get something very different going and to ask people to be part of what you're doing, and influencers and universities being part of what you're doing. So you as a child, what were you like?
How much time do I have? Just kidding. Well, it's what was I like? Well, you know, I was born in San Jose, California, but I moved to Korea because of, my family situation. And I grew up in the southernmost island in Korea called Jeju, right? And it's a very peaceful island. And, whatever I did, I stood out, not because I was smart, but because, I was good at taking tests. I was school smart. I was a, very respectful child, I guess, likable. Um, so I, but then, right when I was fully enjoying my social life and academic status at school in Jeju, my parents said, "Hey, it's about time you go back to the States and study." I was like, "Oh, okay." So I stayed with my uncle starting eighth grade,
Mm-hmm.
okay, apart from my parents.
Mm-hmm.
And all that I took pride in as, like pride in such as like my grades, my popularity, family support, all of that was gone. I mean, I felt humiliated when I showed up with my funny clothes that was trending in Korea back then. I didn't know where to eat lunch, so I went into the bathroom stall and ate there. And
Oh,
I was no longer this advanced, gifted and talented student, but I was rather a disadvantaged ESL student. Now, I think that transition made a huge difference in me, and left a lot of impact on me. And but then I developed a lot of inner strength then, because I could no longer take pride in my academic rankings or social status, right? So it was my vision, and all, that really drove me. Also, I was pretty optimistic child,
So,
thanks to
what was
thanks
your
to
vision?
small success.
Sorry, what was your
My
vision?
vision. Okay, so I was taught to dream big all the time. My dad always said, you have to aim high. Um, and my dream was to, well, there are three dreams. One big dream was to become a minister of education in South Korea.
Mhm.
Second was to build a school in North Korea one day.
Huh.
Uh, and third was more realistic, which is to go back to Jeju Island and share what I learned in the States with the students who don't have the chance.
Hmm.
Uh, so that really drove me. Uh-huh.
So why North Korea? Why would you want to start something up there? Why would that be for a child? And just to get your understanding from your point of view.
Hmm. So I, don't- I had this huge heart for North Korea growing up, not just because my grandparents are from there,
Mm.
but also, I'm a person of faith, and I really, really wanted the light of love in North Korea, even as a child. Like, I don't know why, but I wanted to share that. And the best way to share that light and love is through education, I thought. And I wanted to build the best international school in North Korea. Because I also met this really amazing person from a Pyongyang Science Technology University, and that's like a missionary run, secretly missionary run. Um, and that person really just showed me how it's possible to transform people's lives through education and through good news.
Interesting. Okay. So, so you've got some really a different perspective, having grown up in South Korea, come back, gone through that experience. Grade 8 is one of the hardest times to actually, go through that, because that's when a lot of peer pressure starts in. And yet you were able to overcome that, decide that, hey, it's not just about this is a tough time, but I can, I've got this vision, and to keep hold of that. And you stayed with your uncle. There's a lot of students who come from overseas that stay with other family members or friends just to get some education in Canada or the U.S. I know it happens in both places. So your idea is, now you've seen around the world. You also moved to New York for schooling for a while, right? So you've moved quite a bit as well. If you were a student now growing up in high school, what would you recommend to them to be able to get ready for this new world that's upon us, and also just for themselves, so that they can release the genius in this world?
Hmm. I think, you know, this is maybe said it overly many times, but um, really learning from failures, right? And what I mean by failure is, for example, being humiliated or being stripped off of what you used to enjoy. And I actually recommend, I mean, I congratulate those who are living abroad with, their relatives. I mean, they are getting this rare chance to test their own self-discipline and, a chance to develop great empathy. And I mean, I have to say, living with my uncle was one of the biggest, you know, life lessons I got. I learned how to read people's mind, actually. Am I upsetting them? Am I being burdensome to them? And for some teenagers, that might not, settle well, because you're right, it's a very sensitive age. But, I guess for me, it really worked out well. And I grew this adaptability, which became a huge asset later on, and which helped me grow wherever I am, whether it be New York, or I mean, I haven't been to any, drastic extreme places yet, but I have confidence that I will be able to, find something to release my geniuses and stuff, So I think for high school students, I would love for them to just take a step back. examine their situations, what they can possibly get out of it, no matter how, negative it seems.
That's really good for everyone, I think, just to listen and hear, and especially those people who are looking at working with teenagers. And excuse me, I've got a little bit of a frog in my throat, as they say right now. But I think it's so important to understand that this growth requires some tough stuff. And even when you were talking about giving the tough stuff to the kids in the entrepreneurship program, so often what education tries to do is make everyone feel good. Oh, that's nice, that's nice. And in fact, that's something that it drives me crazy when I hear that, because when you're saying something is nice when it's not really excellent, people need to hear how to get to that excellence. And it doesn't mean that it's going to be a nice ride all the time. And in fact, you need that tough stuff. It's like, how do you make a diamond? Well, it requires a lot of pressure. And at the end, that pressure creates something absolutely beautiful. And humans are the same way. We need some pressure. We need to be pushed in certain directions, and we would never have understood it otherwise. I even feel sometimes, like you said, that it's hard to come from a place where you're popular, where everything was going really well, and somewhere else where you were a ESL student and you didn't belong. And so how do you learn how to belong? And you also then have, like you were talking about, the empathy for others, because you know what it feels like now. And that's not a bad thing. It's a bad thing if you try to go down a path where you're feeling sorry for yourself, and then that causes problems. But instead, to have done something without blaming others, without feeling sorry for yourself, and really reaching up to this next level and saying, what can I do? It's pretty profound. And I think this is so good for others to hear as well. I would like to just hear, you've got these two different programs, and I just very quickly hear this, because I know that we're coming to the end of the podcast, and then I have one big question to ask you at the end. Okay, so if you can just differentiate between the two different programs that you run in the summertime, so that people understand that, and then perhaps just describe how they can get in touch with you, or where they can look for these programs, so that they can also maybe use some of your ideas and maybe even contact you and get some help or get some ideas.
Okay. Well, so the second program that I run in partnership with the University of California, Irvine, is, convergence of sciences, and we focus on research and innovation, right? So, the program is called BEAM, and it stands for Bioengineering, AI, and Medicine. And this program is mainly for those who want university research experience. But it's really the only kind of pre-collegiate program that combines many fields of sciences as well as innovative entrepreneurship. Right? There you go again. Like, there needs to be that entrepreneurship aspect, because the current doctors and researchers are saying, hey, the world is fast changing. Our jobs are going to become obsolete. But why are you studying the same thing that we used to study? So. To really survive, let alone innovate in the future, students need to adopt entrepreneurial mindset and skill sets. So, our program, they not only work with a university faculty research lab, but also they go through the entrepreneurial experience. And many of the students are surprised themselves to find that they're actually interested in entrepreneurship. It's very relevant to their future careers. So they're no longer just bound to become doctors and researchers. It's our secret agenda to crush their dreams, actually, to become doctors. I mean, become more multifaceted person, right? Future ready. Yeah.
That's huge.
So how you can get in touch with me is, we have these websites for our programs. Should I leave them with you? Or...
Yeah, we'll put them in the descriptions so everyone can access them. What are they, though, really quickly?
GATIsummer.com and GATSVI.org.
Okay, can you spell those, please?
GATI summer.com and GATSVI GATSVI.org.
Okay, fabulous. Okay, one more question. And this has got to do with releasing the genius. So, what's
Mm.
the one thing that you think that will help anybody working with others release the genius in another person?
Ooh. So people like me, right? Who
Yes,
help other
yes,
people.
yeah.
Uh, mm, I think uh, being the mirror to them really helps them release the genius. I know that's a little abstract, but what really sets extraordinary people from ordinary people is not the smartness, not the intellect. Obviously, you guys know that, right? And I think the extras are their uh, emotional, social, emotional, inner strength. Um, but oftentimes, students don't focus on that. They often just mistaken or equate, achievements with talent. But their achievements don't really not necessarily mean that they're talents. For example, Nathan, if you win like number one in spirit of math competition, right? That's the result, like that's the
Hmm.
achievement. And you win nothing in English. And you can easily think as a high school student that your talent is in math, but not in English. But that's not true. You have to look deeper into what attributed to your achievement. Is it your diligence? Is it your personality that asks for quick answers, or is it family value? Is it a lot of things play into this achievement that you made. So I think people, if you want to help others release their geniuses, help them think about these factors that attribute to that achievement instead of just focusing on achieving more and more, if that makes sense. I don't know.
That's
Yeah.
so wise, and I think that we've just started to touch the tip of the iceberg of what's inside your brain, because what you've just said is really quite deep, and it must be wonderful if you were, excuse me, if you were a student working with you. I bet you'd go really deep with them too. That's pretty nice. Thank you so much. This has been really
Yes.
amazing.
And I wanted to say thank you to everyone listening. We'll put the GATSVI and GATI in the description. And also, again, thank you, Julie, for joining. It was really
No,
insightful to
thank
talk
you.
about how are you impacting the world, even though you might say that you might not be, but really we all think you are. And then let's try to just keep this conversation going as to, well, how can this continue and grow. And we ask our audience as well to join in on that conversation.
This is wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's
No,
been
thank you
great to
so
talk
much
to
for
you.
this. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much for this opportunity. I had a lot of fun.
Good. Good. Awesome.
Uh,
Okay.
All right. And then
Yes.
hopefully we'll see you soon.
Okay.
okay.
So and listen in, you guys, for even more of what we're going to be doing later. This is just a great example for you all of what people can do if they're looking for more than just the shallow, I've got a high score. That this goes much deeper, and it's helping people understand how this world works. And economically, not just for education, it's integrating the economics with education. And I think today is becoming much more clear that this is even needed even more today. So once again, thank you so much, Julie. This has been a thrill. Thanks.
Thank you.